Hello there, YouTubers. Out here at the morning here in a little bit of shade. I'll rotate so you can see here. The shade is still in the yard, so I'm going to do a little work out here. The wind kind of tore some of this cheap old metal siding loose yesterday. It was weird. I've never seen one pop off before. And I thought, I wonder if some cat hit that thing at 40 miles an hour from underneath. I don't know. But anyhow, I didn't see any cat remains, but anyhow, I just want to chat with you about something I've been thinking about today. And I was watching some videos and stuff about all this nasty evidence that's arising about deaths all over the world, caused directly by you-know-what. The so-called miracle warp, the warped ass miracle, yeah. Anyway, some warped people put that thing in, and a lot of people are paying for it. But anyway, I got to thinking, 2024. What makes me so certain in my mind that there's even going to be an election? Consider with me, it's 2023. That's only 15 months more or less in front of the election, right? Right now, it's a runaway. Joe Biden, that's current squatter, you know the one I'm talking about, down there at the White House, the current squatter. There's no way that guy could win. He never won in the first place. The whole thing was a fraud, an absolute sham. But even the crooked Democrats can't figure a way to rig it against Bobby in terms of a fair vote. Supposing such a thing exists among Democrats, I don't know. But if the two candidates, the two national candidates, are DJT and RFK Jr., guess what? The bigwigs, you know, them jillionaires who hide out and don't have a name, the real, you know, holes that the enemy has put in place, they're basically in contact, whoever these people are, and it's not even sure they're 100% people. There may be interlopers, essentially spiritual entities, deeply corrupted, I mean from below. And these are the people, so to speak, at the top. They simply would not tolerate either of those men. Bobby Kennedy Jr. has way too much loyalty, character, basic sanity, and balance to be able to basically negotiate honestly with anyone if they will negotiate honestly with him, which is precisely the problem. All they do is throw names at him like he's some sort of public menace or something. And it's like, how many families has he helped whose children were poisoned by Big Pharma? And you want to defend Big Pharma? No wonder they can't stand Kennedy. But anyway, if it's him versus Donald Trump, and I like them both, but for different reasons. But the thing is that I'm not, after 2020, I said, well, I ain't voting no more anyhow. Why not? Because the whole thing's a sham. It's an absolute fake. It's a lie. It's a kabuki theater. I'm sorry, Japanese folks. I had to borrow that phrase because we don't have a good one in English, but it sounds like a ridiculous farce, but with true criminal intent and malice aforethought. You get all kinds of crazy stuff boiling up. But anyway, what makes me so sure there will be an election in 2024? Not much, because you can hatch an emergency when you need to. If you got enough money and you got enough power and you have bought enough politicians, and that's what's happened. Basically, we've been sold. How did it happen? The politicians, like 2-bit hookers. Sorry, girls, I don't mean to compare you to those truly repulsive individuals, but you got to understand in English parlance, when you say 2-bit hooker, you mean basically someone of the disreputable sort. And so if you are, in fact, a prostitute, and I mean, you know, ill intent and all. In fact, I now take that back. I don't call them 2-bit hookers anymore, because it would be insanely vicious and mean to assault you by equating you with those vermin from down there that are at the top of our world, the big shots, the invisibility. And so there's a little phrase that came to mind. I posted on Flossbook here a little while ago. I just wanted to kind of share this with you. It just seems interesting, you know. He is the maker of reality, the duality, and the reconciliation thereof, except mine might not have included thereof. At any rate, he's the one here who's three, the three who is one, the Holy Father, the Son Almighty, and the Spirit who is holy and true. That's one God, that's not three. And the Muslims, they can go pound sand, I don't care whether they like it or not. One day it will be demonstrably obvious to you, and you will not be able to deny it any longer, but by then it's a little too damn late now, ain't it? So why don't you just wise up and drop your heresy and admit the fact that this is the basic problem. We see it today. Which is the most valuable? Is it the one or the many? Go read Rushdoony if you have to. Heck, even Van Til. The one or the many? Which shall it be? Is it for the good and survival of the race or the country or whatever the group is? Or is it that each individual must be involved in the process? In other words, is it one of the many, the individuals, or is it the individual group, the unit called society, or a one world government? In other words, when you have true political unity, however grossly and disastrously enforced, with, might I add, malice aforethought and violence that was unnecessary, or is yet to be necessary. What we're looking at is a non-election in 2024, because these, whatever they are, I would call them a-holes, but again, it's the same problem we got with hookers. Because actually a sphincter is pretty darn important, and without them, boy, you'd be miserable. In fact, I don't even know if you could live. Who would want to? But, yeah, that's gnarly. Well, that's what that's plumbing, man. It's on the inside. So in other words, you got to think about it. It's actually insulting to equate our so-called leaders, especially the invisible ones, with a-holes. Because it's an insult to sphincters everywhere. And that's the ones they call mighty. Come on, Oprah, tell me a story. Come on, Epstein, you had a file on everybody who was at your island. Where's that file at? Hey, the girlfriend Epstein, you're still breathing. Tell us what you know. Psst, huge quiet. Just like this movie now. They're sabotaging theaters. Sabotaging their own theaters to deny people the opportunity to watch a movie. Now, that does seem a little extraordinary, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. And all of a sudden we got a power failure. Oh, the fire alarm went off, or whatever it is. They're interrupting and pausing, and it only heightens the attention. These people are idiots. If they mean to distract us away from the product, they're doing it exactly ass backwards. This creates a new demand because you're trying to prohibit people from seeing a medium, a message, a movie that you so violently disagree with. You're covering for pedophiles and murderers and corrupted spawn of demons. That's who you've sided with, Mr. and Mrs. Theater owner and participating in this stuff voluntarily. You don't think that has a little bit of ideological grist in that mill that says something about you unreliable toad or toadette? Sorry again, toads. Sorry, toads. Mr. Amphibian, I want to be friends. I didn't mean to compare you to that. It's just, you came to mind, that's all. Something about the expression. But anyway, think back now. Here it is, 2023. As far as I can tell, the Republic's dead. After 2020, I said I ain't voting no more. It's just a complete fraud. They can stage the amount of the win, the percentage, and they can predict it exactly. And it can exceed just what they need to avoid a recount. Amazing. And that's why Hillary got her butt so hurt in 2016, and why they went on this, and they're still on it. This almost a decade-long now vendetta of an ex-Democrat, by the way, who was, by the way, big friends with them as a donor. All of a sudden, they just had this hate affair with this guy like he's the devil himself. It's like, nah, devil doesn't look like that guy, trust me. But the point is that all of that hubbub and hustle about all these so-called violations and laws broken, these heretical witch hunts that the Dems been stirring up for now, what is it, 7+ years? Well, you know why? Because the 2016 election was rigged as well. Hillary was assured of a victory. She was a sure thing, and she knew it beforehand going in. So many Trump people turned out, it blew the algorithm. Freaked them out. Because the fixed numbers they had already arranged were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. That's what happened in 2016. Nobody will tell you to it. But that's what's behind this hate affair. He whipped her ass clean and simple. Nobody likes the Democrats. Nobody wants to be around them. Look at Hillary. She's involved in serial cases of defending a known rapist and a predator who happened to be Slick Willie. So, but if I do vote, if there is an election, I've voted third party before, and people say, well, you're wasting your vote. It's like, no, you're not wasting your vote. You're expressing who you want as your candidate for president or senator, or and you can write one in if you like. That's not wasting your vote. That's expressing your identity and your desire, which was voting was supposed to be about. So they've entirely lost track of that. But I can think of two cases at least, Bush Elder and Bush Jr., that were both affected by a third party. People claim third parties are just a waste of time. No, they're not. Because Ross Perot in 92 put Slick over the top, and he stole about 14% of the points. He didn't steal them, he earned them. He was a billionaire. He was kind of a strange dude. Of course, you probably never heard of him. Back then, a billionaire, by the way, was a big deal. It was somebody who had a lot of money, okay? Billionaire nowadays is like, more of that junk-ass money. What is that stuff? But the point is, boy, I got itchy elbows. So I'm going to try to get done with this video pretty quick because I do want to work in the shade as much as I can. That sun yesterday was kicking hard. Anyway, trying to get back and wrap this up a little bit. In terms of the coming vote, as it were, think back. Third parties have made a difference. You can vote the way you love if you believe in voting still. I have seen no movement at all by anyone in the legislatures or courts or even in the public so-called media demanding that the grotesque violations and serial violations which were recorded and people wanted to actually document them in courts of law, and they were never heard. Those testimonies were never heard. There was not one judge in the land who had the backbone to face this thing down. And that tells you a lot about what's happened to what used to be the USA. We're dead. We've been sold down the river. And the new bosses are moving in, and they're ugly. They're damn ugly. But there's a lot of people rising up and saying, wait a minute, I've had enough of your bullshit. I've had enough of your lies. You need to be in jail, you murderers. You have sold and made billions and billions for your friends who bought you. That's what happened. We were sold out. How did that happen? Our so-called leaders prostituted themselves to big money and big power. And basically, drug cartels right now are running the world. At least you can think of it. You can think of it as bankers, yes. You can think of it the Rosicrucians or somebody. But you could just simplify this here if you need to. The world's getting out of control, but it was never really in our control in the first place. But even we are beginning to notice the out of controlness is getting out of control. And it's like a runaway sled, a runaway ball going downhill on snow, like Bullwinkle. Think Bullwinkle. The bigger it goes, the faster it gets. The faster it gets, the bigger it goes, or something like that. In other words, it builds upon itself, and it's already begun. And so the results are going to be pretty soon going to be a digital currency where, basically, because of these opinions right here being posted on a public medium, I may not be able to buy groceries around the corner. My credit card won't be any good. I could take it to the bank and say, hey, I need to talk to you about this. I got a $12,000 limit, and I'm nowhere near there. Sorry, there's nothing we can do. That account's been temporarily suspended by another department above us. And who might they be? Well, here's a P.O. box. And in the meantime, what? Starve, I guess? Anyway, that's what they're building. And then they want to go in for all this facial recognition crap everywhere, CCTVs everywhere, and all kinds of crazy junk. And I'm not going to catalog it for you, but what I'm saying is that that's the feel of the 2024 election. If there is a future, and if you're a historian, this is what it felt like now. That's what I'm trying to record. That essentially there's a lot of disease out there, and disease thinking, I mean. There's fears about a physical disease, but the disease is on the inside. It's a warped view. They call it woke. Some do. And I can understand why they say that, because these people are like the hypocrites of old. They're parading themselves in front of all as the paradigms of moral excellence and being up to date and fashionable all at once and becoming a jillionaire. Well, guess what? That involves child sacrifice. What? That's what's coming out now. That yes, people do make a deal with the devil and they do rise to the top. But guess what happens? Look back. Think about all the old big stars. Think about Michael Jackson. What happened to him? Prince, where'd he go? In other words, these people are lifted up to the top, and then drugs or something, some kind of crazy sex scandal, something comes in, and they just crumble and disappear. People nowadays, I bet you if you said to someone who's 20 years old, have you ever heard of Michael Jackson? He'd be like, wasn't he a famous painter? Well, maybe he was. I don't know about that. But the point is everything's shifting, everything's moving on. So write things down, because this cyber medium that we're being drawn into, this phony baloney universe of an internet-based reality, bullshit. It's just I call bullshit as an old man, and I can back it up. I know I'm right, but people are getting sucked into this fast, and there's a demonic entity involved. In other words, the linkages between the tech and the spirit. You can talk about AI all you want every day of the week out the wazoo, but until you admit and integrate something like the traditional human view that we are either soul or spirit or both, but we're also body. In other words, we are spirit animals. We have a soul side, and that's the living element that moves on after physical death. The soul is separate from the body at death. This has been the traditional view in the world, and it's only now recently being challenged, which is insane. But in other words, until they have to by force be admitted that a spirit is required for the life to be, guess what they're going to join? That AI thing too, that quantum processing hot rod that just can outcompute everybody on the planet combined. They're going to link it into a spiritual domain. That thing as a finished product then is what is unified with a man. Here comes Antichrist. Probably a probe directly into his brain. I don't know, some kind of surround system. Maybe he's in like the equivalent of an unfermi cage. I don't know. Go log that one in and see what comes up. But this is building toward that. We can see it from here. And we know the ending. Jesus Christ wins, hands down. No doubt about it. Slam dunk. And this puny little miserable batch of traitors and all their stupid lies, that's all going to burn, baby. That's fuel for the fire. But that's not where you want to go. That's not where I want to be. I have desired mercy and not the sacrifices of even my own soul, because that's what this World Wide Web thing is trying to do. It's trying to draw your soul in so that you equate your life, the meaningful, worthwhile life, the dopamine hits, remember those, with this influx into your nervous system through media. Beware. So maybe you shouldn't watch this video. It may be bad for you. How weird is that? Anyway, I'm indicting myself every day. So when the right-thinking cops, or whoever they're called, I'm thinking they got to either be foreigners or robots. It's going to be very difficult to enlist U.S. Loyal Army folk or even reserves into becoming essentially a Gestapo to round up Christians, because it's the Christians, you and me, the people who still believe that every time you add 1 to a given number, it doesn't even matter which number you choose. Just take 23, for instance. When you add 1, you always get the next one, 24. Right? It's just weird. So counting works, see? And it doesn't even matter what number you start with. You can start with 8,176 if you like. Well, what's the next number? Well, that'd be 8,177. Why? Because I just added 1, you know. And it's weird. It just keeps working like that. It doesn't matter how far out you go. But in other words, that's now considered a far right-wing extremist militia type viewpoint by some. I'm dangerous, you see, by virtue of believing that there is a God who is God and he's not fooling around. And there will be judgment, and according to righteousness as he sees it, in his time. And it will be devastating for the wicked. By virtue of saying things like that, that 1, every time you add another one, you keep getting the same number, that if that's considered to be some kind of, underground, crazy man tinfoil hat episode, then I'll be the bad guy. If the world needs a bad guy, and that's the way they want to define it, okay with me, I don't care. It doesn't matter what people think. People are retarded. Well, their minds have been bent. They've been distorted, badly distorted in the fall. They can no longer see nor hear, but they think they do both, because they don't even know that they're already dead. So it's those who have been brought to life in Christ by the power of the Spirit through the medium of the Word, I would hope, as preached or taught through dreams or visions, however he works. He's free to operate. Anyway, he's gathering in a folk, and it's powerful. It's from around the world, across the age, into one folk. And that new one-person thing is called the bride, or the church, the gathered, the ecclesia. And she shall be one. In other words, the business of the one and the many, remember? Am I an individual in a group? Is that the most important thing? Me and my rights, me and my vision, me and my views, me and my money, me. Is that the true center of order? Or is it the good of the group? And everybody on the left wing wants to say group. But it's the ones on the right say, well, if you don't have individuals, I mean real individuals, then you have no group. You kind of need individuals, right? So in other words, it's a standoff, and now we're pulled this way, then we're pulled back. Go read Rushdoony, read Van Til. And at any rate, the point is that as we're pulled in and out of one and manyness, we know in our faith and in our truth, and by his own assertion through sound reason and good deduction, that there is one God who is three, and in him, the resolution to the duality is solved in love and in peace and in great rejoicing. It's kind of like a rodeo and a big old square dance and a circus. I mean, it's just a happy, wild environment. It's dynamic, it's swirling, it's entrancing. I mean, he's the best. He's the best of the best. And so by virtue of me saying that sort of stuff, see, I'm now the bad guy. Okay, I'll be it. That's fine. Because it doesn't matter what people think. They'll get over it as soon as they see him. But by then it's too late. And we don't want that. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for anybody. Well, okay, the Antichrist and his false prophet, those guys can go to hell. But for all the other humans, Jesus is robbing the enemy blind every day. He's bringing them on in, his kids, from far and near, old and young, brown and black and white and every other color that could be, short and tall and educated and not, and mostly the nobodies of this world, the people that are invisible. He makes them seen in his Father's eyes, and they're loved, and they're real. See, that's the problem, that this whole phony baloney environment can't take into equation and never shall. He's the maker of the real. All they've got is a phony baloney illusion. And they're trying to create this bastardized so-called creature, this living thing, keyword thing here, as if it were the lawful heir of mankind to the rule of this planet, the new man, humanity 2.0. And guess who's going to be the prime candidate for that new manhood? I mean, really the only one who's so far achieved his evolution is the one who links into that damned AI/demonic frequency into his brain. And so now you have the human connection back to earth, back to real time. Now the demonic has free flow, just like they do in oppression and possession, into the world, but now through the web, now through your own head. Don't take that shit in your head. Don't put it in your head, whatever you do. And don't take that damn mark neither. If they want to cut you off and say you can't buy nothing, try bartering. If you can't, try begging. Go seek a homeless and find therapy. Find out how they do to live below the radar. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm going to sign up for, what do you call it, prison. I'm going to sign up for prison, see if I get first in line. In other words, the thing is, ultimately, that's what has to happen. The Christians have to be persecuted and killed and imprisoned, probably as slave labor, if nothing else, or experiments for their so-called science, those twisted bastards. But they're like Mengele. I mean, jeez, and Mengele was actually a lightweight compared to these guys. Ugh. That's sad. This is the reality we're in. And so anyway, take heart. Jesus Christ wins, and if there's not an election in 2024, if I have to become, shall we say, monetaryless, without money, without hope, I throw myself in the hands of the Lord right now. And I hope to in that day as well, to trust him for all that he delivers, because I have lived many years and I've never seen the son or daughter of a righteous one go begging or have to be starved to death. But I haven't seen much. I haven't been around. But what I'm saying is, my estimate, my blend is that God does take care of his children, because God knows he knows better what we need than we do, and he provides us what we actually need. And what we actually need is him at our center, him at our heart, and in our life. So if you'll do that, if you'll walk in this way, ignore everything I say, and you go seek him. You talk to him. You say, I want an interview with you, man. I want to talk with the real God. I ain't going to take no bullshit, and I'm not going to blow no smoke up your ass. Talk straight with me, or just get the hell out. That's your prayer language, okay? Special prayer language. But in other words, talk straight to the man, and he's real. He'll get back to you. Trust me, he always does. And by the way, he won, and wins, and shall win again with calamity.